Please be seated. And good morning to you all. Today, with ringing the Peace Bowl, we affirm our collective hope for peace, though still elusive. We acknowledge that these lands that we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people. Please enjoy just listening to our gathering music played by our musician extraordinaire, Karen Denny. And now I extend a hearty welcome to all of you who are here. We have a great turnout. This is wonderful to see you all in person. And of course, all of you in Zoom too, including I see Lena, who's usually at the piano. So welcome to you. Would any of the visitors today be comfortable to stand and introduce yourself, letting us know what brought you here this morning? And we have Rick who will go around with the mic. Mic is right here. Okay. We'd love to hear who you are.
Looks like you are Dexter.
This is working. This is our grandson Dexter. He's here from college in Nashville, and he, almost 21 years ago, was the first baby dedicated in this congregation.
That's right. We are welcoming Dexter, the grandson of some of our neighbors, and 21 years ago, he was the first baby being dedicated in these halls.
I see another visitor here.
My name's Kat Purcell, but my mother is Mary Margaret Cook.
Mary Margaret Cook and Kat Purcell. Welcome. And where are you from?
I live in Chico, California.
Chico, California. Very, very wonderful.
We have Mary Margaret and her daughter who's visiting from Chico, California, and Mary Margaret is one of my swimming partners. So.
I see someone else. Oh, here is Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica. My last name is Buna. I'm here in Prescott visiting from California. Although my nearest UU church is in Ashland, Oregon, so I live way far north. But I'm here visiting my dad, who's here for the first time. So.
Welcome. This is Erica, who is coming from Chico, California, though she also went to a UU church up in Ashland, Oregon.
Ashland, Oregon has a wonderful Shakespearean festival that's been going on since 1945 or something like that.
Yeah, many of us know about Ashland and its Shakespearean plays.
Sandy?
My name is Sandy, and I've been a UU before, but I live here in Prescott now, and just thought I'd come back and visit.
Oh, we have Sandy, who was a UU before and decided she'd come and check us out here. So welcome, sir.
Okay.
Well, that's great to see you all here, and I hope you do check us out.
Welcome our new visitors.
So, yes. Be sure to join us after the service in Davis Hall, which is across the foyer, where we have coffee and lively conversation. So So I know there are people who cannot be here because COVID struck, like Sharon Watt, who is at home, hopefully visiting with us. So be careful, it is still around. So it's good to be together, isn't it? It's great to see so many familiar faces, and also, I believe, the newcomers. And let's go on here. In our work and ministry here at Granite Peak, we use the principles of our mission statement, which says, "We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and services the world we live in." This morning, we thank the many people that helped make this service possible. There's our Sunday pianist, Karen Denny, and Martin at our AV, our very capable AV person, and many, many Sunday morning volunteers, from the greeters to people who make their coffee hour possible. What would a UU service be without coffee hour, folks? We couldn't do with all these helpers. Thank you very much. And now, may I remind you to turn your phone and other beepers to silent mode? There are many ways we learn about activities and events of our congregation. You find information on our website, prescottuu.org, and all the weekly news is in a weekly Peak newsletter online, and more can be found in a foyer, in our monthly newsletter, The View. There are some copies of our View and other newsletters in the welcome table out in the foyer. We have a nursery in this building for children under 5, and those older are taught by our faith development coordinator, Sandra Palacios, in the building across the street. If you haven't been across the street and visited our rooms there, our garden, our play yard, so you are welcome to sometimes roll over there and look at them, because very good things are happening there. So. We begin our service in a Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Deanne Rusk. We light this chalice, a symbol of our heritage, in gratitude for this beloved community. And now, I have a very special pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Yvonne Garrett, also known as my youngest daughter. She's a second-generation UU, a feminist, activist, religious humanist, ethical vegan, and an aspirant for UU ministry. She's a spiritual life advisor at New York University's Office of Global Spiritual Life, and an online ministerial intern at First UU Brooklyn Church. She holds 4 master's degrees, an MLIS, an MFA in fiction, 2 masters from the NYU, and a PhD from Drew University, and is currently at Starr King online, where she's pursuing a master's in divinity in both the UU ministry and chaplaincy concentrations. She will graduate in May. Her writing has been published in a wide array of journals and magazines, and her dad, Larry Garrett, has been a longtime member of GPUU, and her mom, that's me, continues to be an active member of this congregation. On top of all of that, she has a full-time job working at the New School University in New York City. And I know that her days have 36 and not just 24 hours. So we have the words of gathering that Yvonne will give us.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to give you some words by Sharon Wiley. This is called Call to Worship and Action. It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I say we are all afflicted and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we here find peace in times of tumult. May we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness. May we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be the place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together. And now I invite you to rise as willing and able in body or spirit, and join us in singing our opening hymn, your gray hymnal, number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Gather in spirit, gathers the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our zealous might appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
At this time, we like to recognize, celebrations and concerns that we, oh my goodness. There we go. Sorry about that. Oh, yeah. All right, so please join me. There it is. Please join me in saying the words of our covenant. They are on the screen. Let's say it together. Love is a doctrine of the congregation. The quest for truth, its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to service others in community, thus do we covenant together. And now we come to joys and concerns. That's when we like to recognize celebrations or concerns that many of us have in this congregation. We have 2 bowls of water on each side here. And if you wish, please come up quietly and place a stone of your choosing into the bowl, representing your joy or your concern. A few weeks ago, we started to sing that we're breathing song. In, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, as we breathe.
Breathe out, breathe
Out. I breathe.
Breathe out, breathe in.
I breathe.
Breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out, breathe in.
Thank you. As we come to the offertory, and we pray for this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather here each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our seeds of support. This month's recipient is the Prescott Area Shelter Services PASS. It provides temporary emergency shelter to women and women with children. They have a 19-bed dormitory and additional rooms. PASS guests receive case management services and referral to valuable community resources. Please read more about them on the back of your order of service. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through these offerings. What is given in love is received with gratitude. Blessed be.
And now we'll do a dual reading. It's by William F. Schultz. It's in your gray hymnal number 459. This is the mission of our faith.
To teach the fragile art of hospitality.
To revere both the critical mind and the generous heart.
To prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness.
And to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. And now I invite you to stand as you are willing and able and join us in singing in your gray hymnal number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has dried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If we cannot speak like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from within you. You can change the world with your love. Love has guided us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
All right, I think it's now time for our speaker. So, right?
Yes, that is
So,
correct.
being thankful in difficult times.
I'm going to say good morning again and welcome you to say good morning back to me. And good morning to everyone who is joining us today on Zoom. First, I want to thank you for inviting me to come and speak with you all this morning. You may not be aware of this, but Granite Peak has a reputation of being both an active congregation and very welcoming. Something that's not true of all UU spaces. Now, many of us are very busy people, and we're often not as welcoming as we mean to be. Life can be hard. And sometimes it's just so much easier to hunker down, to stay safe in what we know and with the people we know. I want to acknowledge it's a particularly difficult time in this country right now and in the world. And difficult times can make being welcoming that much more difficult. So thank you again for the invitation and for welcoming me into your community. Now, this is a time of year for many of us when we focus on being thankful. We see it everywhere, in our email, on TV, everywhere. But it's also a difficult time for many of us. In my family, this is both a time for coming together in joy and for grieving. My brother, Phil, killed himself Thanksgiving weekend of 1998. And I don't say this to elicit sympathy, but instead to acknowledge that there is no time that is especially well suited to being thankful, to embracing gratitude, but we should do it anyway. For Indigenous folks and their allies, Thanksgiving is often called thanks-grieving or thanks-taking. Chase Iron Eyes, director at the Lakota People's Law Project, suggests that we consider calling this time of year truth-giving instead. A time for sharing and gratitude while also calling for a necessary truth-telling component. Now, I've developed a practice over the years of reminding myself to be thankful no matter what, a sort of daily practice of gratitude. It's not easy, particularly when it seems like the entire world is sliding into chaos, or when I'm dealing with chronic pain, or negotiating a union contract at work, or dealing with the vast network of punishing bureaucracy, particularly with health insurance, that has become everyday life in our world. What does it mean to be thankful? Not to just say thanks, but to embrace gratitude every day, no matter what. A recent post on Poetry Culture encourages us to remember when you wanted what you currently have. That one got a big and but from me. There are a lot of things I have now that I never wanted. But if I re-examine this, I can see it's all in how I look at life, at what is meant by the things I wanted and now have. Physical mobility, my own apartment in New York City, a solid, loving relationship with my mom, a PhD, an ability to reframe my anxiety, anguish, and anger into activism, ministry, and better ways to take care of myself and others. Now here's another one. Take full account of what excellencies you possess, and in gratitude, remember how you would hanker after them if you had them not. Now, that's Marcus Aurelius, for those who don't know who he is. He was a Stoic and Emperor of Rome. I want to ask you to think about that, excellencies you possess. Or perhaps we can think about this as our strengths and how we show up in the world and for each other. Because part of being UU is showing up, and part of being UU is leaning into our strengths and being excellent to each other. Poet Jory Graham states in a recent interview that throughout her long life as a poet and activist, she has felt the requirement to show up, set an example, to bear witness. For her, this feels like both a spiritual requirement as much as a political one. Much of the way that Graham shows up is through her poetry of witness, bringing attention to the urgencies and injustices in our world. It can be rough to read one of her poems, but we're UUs and we believe in paying attention. Ours is a faith founded on a commitment to ethical action. It's in our roots, in our present, our future, and our past. In 1819, William Henry Channing preached about what he called Unitarian Christianity, a foundational sermon that all UU seminarians have to learn, and is also deeply influential today. For Channing, the Christian God is a God who takes pleasure in making human beings happy and finds joy in encouraging the infinite progression of human beings toward the moral perfection of their souls. Now, I have some issues with some of that, but Channing set aside the Calvinist image of God as wrathful, angry, and punitive, and for Channing, human beings are not irrevocably fallen, broken, and sinful. In 1819, when Channing gave this sermon, he rocked the religious world. Channing's ideas were the culmination of the American Enlightenment, and at the same time, the transition point to a liberal faith that would eventually remove belief in God, the Bible, Christianity, or Christ as a requirement for Unitarian faith. His was an early statement of that idea of a loving deity or divine, and would also influence later non-theist work focused on ethical action. It's not just a God or gods responsible for joy or for pushing the arc of the universe toward justice. Now, however any of us feels about a belief in a divine being, what I hope we can all agree on is that a deep belief in ethical action is a central part of being UU. And now I'll quote from the UU Way. For those who don't know UU, that's our central administration. For Unitarian Universalists, ethical action means actively living out our core principles of justice, equity, compassion, and the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It means taking concrete steps to create a more just and peaceful world through social activism, advocating for positive change based on our individual search for truth and meaning. Essentially putting our beliefs into practice to make a difference in our communities and society at large. Now let me revisit that earlier quote from Poetry Culture. Remember when you wanted what you currently have. We are all paying attention to the very real possibility that many among us and many people in this country and also on our planet are going to be losing protections, rights, and much that we currently have. It's scary, particularly for folks who aren't white, straight, able-bodied, and with the right proof of citizenship. And it's scary for everyone who depends on federal aid, reproductive choice, DEI initiatives, and so many other rights that are going to be targeted. That's interesting. I would be lying. Here we go. If I said I'm not scared, angry, grieving for myself and for so many people, so many urgent causes, and for our planet. But I also take heart in my own ability to turn fear into anger and then into ethical action. Social justice activism and my strong belief that UU is, as the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt says, a sheltering faith, that we have always saved ourselves, and when we are at our best, we do the hard work of ethical action out in the world. Because it matters. UU rests on a foundational belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all human beings. And always from our inception as a community, UU believes in accountable interdependence. But as the Reverend Micah Ma, current interim minister at First UU Brooklyn, said recently, beloved community won't be built by rushing. We all need to breathe. We all need to allow ourselves some time to grieve. But we also all need to stop doom scrolling and constantly focusing on the negative narratives so many of us are participating in. We must focus on our values, our community, and our own excellencies, because this is how we move forward. As an atheist, I do not believe in a reward in another place and time. Much of my ministry is focused on paying attention, a drive to listen, to care, to actively love the world, to be open to inviting others into community, to be focused on gratitude, and to borrow a phrase from that great current philosopher Ross Gay on how we practice entanglement. For me, that's not just about how I get along with people, although I'm a self-defined religious humanist and humanists do care about humans. But it's also about how I practice my entanglement with the planet and every living being. Because we are all important and we are all connected, and that's the interdependent web that many of us know. Since the 2024 presidential election, I have been tempted to just spend time watching old movies, reading fiction, working out with my headphones on, having popcorn for dinner, and doing all the other things that bring me comfort. But I'm a UU minister in training, and while I know that I must take the time to grieve, to breathe, to let myself be angry and yes, scared, I am thankful for all of the excellencies I have developed in my life that let me know that I can't survive without doing that work of being in and building community. I've learned that really, instead of hunkering down in my comfort zone, I need to be out in the world with other people, doing the hard work of loving this world, embracing risk, the risk of being vulnerable to others and to love. Now, as a reminder, when I'm talking about UU values, I'm directly referencing Article 2 and the newly accepted description of our values as inclusive of interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence and acknowledge our place in it, pluralism. We are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Justice, we work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all feel welcome and can thrive. Transformation, we adapt to the changing world. Generosity, we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. Equity, we declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion, all with love at the center. Now let's talk about justice specifically. Again, the language is, we work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all feel welcome and can thrive. I want to consider how we as UUs experience this idea of justice, of building community. of centering love. We sing, and today Karen played, "Come, come, whoever you are," but what does it actually mean to live into our UU values of welcome in the world? How do we invite others in to our lives, our congregations, our communities? Because, of course, part of the work of building beloved community has to include inviting new folks into our community. So, how do we work to connect every day? For me, basic human connection is as much a part of my spiritual practice as time spent in nature or at a Sunday service. I have a practice on most Sundays. After the Sunday service at Community Church in Manhattan, I walk from 35th Street all the way down along Park Avenue. And I try to bring some small bottles of water, maybe a granola bar or two, and I stop and check in with some of the unhoused folks living on the sidewalks on Park Avenue on the way downtown. Now, some of these folks, they don't want to talk to anyone, so I don't impose on their privacy. But some tell me that no one has spoken to them or looked at them all day, sometimes for days. And for me, sometimes those conversations help me feel a little less of the waves of loneliness that can rise up in a city of 9 million people who really don't like to talk to each other very much. And it's not just unhoused folks. Maybe some of you read one of the recent news stories on the American epidemic of loneliness. So many of us are suffering from a failure to connect, from a lack of invitation into community. Some colleagues have said to me that they imagine that my practice on Sundays also makes me feel thankful to not be homeless. Well, yeah, I am. But I'm also thankful for the connection I make with every unhoused person, because connection is as essential to our mutual survival as housing and food and water. Now, recently I was invited by New York University's Global Center for Spiritual Life, which is a really long name for a really great place, to attend a welcome event for new graduate and international students at NYU. I sat behind a table in a large room with other such tables. I expected a few students, maybe a lot of students, to show up. There were hundreds. Now, because I've worked trade shows before, I just shifted into that gear, plus heart forward, and waved students over. Some just wanted to hear about the free yoga and meditation that the center offers. Some wanted more information on the Hindu, Buddhist, and Muslim groups on campus. A few just needed someone to squeeze their hand, look into their eyes, and tell them it's going to be okay, that they're not alone. Because this world can be terrifying. New York City and NYU can be terrifying. But it becomes less so, maybe even a place to find joy and gratitude, when we reach out our hands and say hello, when we look in another person's eyes and just listen, when we invite them in. This is the work of building beloved community, and this is the work of living into our UU values in the world, and is so much more important now than ever. Our UU values are centered around love. As Article 2 states, love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. We are accountable to one another, and not just in our congregations. For me, we means all of us. As we know from our principles, we covenant together with a belief in that inherent worth and dignity of every person. That means our unhoused neighbors, college students, my barista, the fine folk at Trader Joe's, that annoying guy at Home Depot. Every person. But how do we do this? How do we find time when so many of us are suffering from an exhaustion of urgency, when everything every day is breaking news, when it becomes difficult sometimes just to get up in the morning? Centering love, centering kindness, centering gratitude can be exhausting work, but it can also fill us with joy. The transformative joy of connection, the joy of experiencing someone's smile, a deep glance into each other's eyes, even a stranger's. That necessary spiritual food we all need as human beings. And yes, even difficult times can fill us with gratitude if we can just stop and breathe and recenter. I will always lean into hope. It's central to my belief and understanding of the world. I will always argue against a reliance on a reason that is couched only in cynicism. I am an intellectual and can critically reason with the best of them. But I'm also UU. And UU is inherently optimistic. Our values and our principles rely on a belief in possibility, as did Channing in 1819. The possibility that what we do, how we show up, and how we love the world matters. UU has always been playing the long game. Channing knew it. Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt knows it. And I'll bet every one of you out there knows it too. It is exhausting to do the work of leaning daily into our values. When the world around us seems always to be on fire, there is always suffering, greed, selfishness, and there have always been leaders who represent the worst of humanity in our view. But there have also always been people willing to show up, to give witness, to love the world. We are interdependent beings. We need each other. There is massive inequity, injustice, and so much pain in this world. It seems like every day the list of urgent needs grows longer. But I imagine how much harder it would be to find any slice of joy in our day if we don't invite others in. Imagine how much lighter the work becomes when we build those bridges, open our doors and our hearts. Imagine how much brighter your day would be if you could lean into your own strengths and to reframe fear and cynicism into a deep gratitude for yourself, your community, and our entire interdependent web. We are accountable to one another. Let us move forward with love. Let us move forward knowing we are not alone. Let us embrace the risk of being vulnerable. Let us work to build beloved community by actively living into our UU values. Let us be excellent to each other. Let us be thankful. And as Maya Angelou says, let us find joy in the face of adversity. Thank you for inviting me here today. Blessed be. Thank you. And now I'll invite you to join, rise in body or spirit as you're willing and able, and join us in singing in the gray hymnal, number 121, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives grow free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promise best land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like the ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like the ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up the devastations of old, restoring ruins of generation. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like the ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like the ever-flowing stream.
So you just sat down, and I was going to invite you to stand, but you can just stay sitting because that's annoying. I do invite you to join hands with your neighbors. If you're sitting next to someone, don't struggle to find someone if you're not. Hand by hand, we touch those who are here with us and those who are no longer with us. And hand over hand, we build community. We each have gifts that make a difference. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected, be love, and open your hearts to a world in need of healing. Amen, and blessed be.
Thank you very much, daughter of mine. So, and let us now extinguish the chalice. So, but hope and love will stay with us. We extinguish this flame, let's say together, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you. We have an announcement. After that, let's go to Davies Hall for coffee.
Sorry, I won't keep you long, but I need to bring you some tidings. I think they are good tidings. As many of you know, many have been here a long time, there have been many people who have been trying to think about what we could do to enhance the beauty and the ambiance of this building that was purchased from the Oddfellows many, many years ago. So many people have contributed over a long time. Well, as you know, we had a congregational meeting a few months ago to say, let's go forth and actually do something. So there have been groups that have been meeting. I call them the project team. We've added an aesthetics group that has been participating as well. So the work has accelerated, and it's accelerated more than any of us actually thought. The bottom line is we had a meeting just the other day. This was a culmination of many meetings, of course, with the architect who we have Granite Peak has contracted to come up with a specific design. These plans are in the final stages. Construction drawings are being finished up over the next week or two. And in fact, we then met with the architect and a builder, a very experienced builder who has a great deal of experience in town. He has worked on many different projects around the community for a long time. Well, it was a very exciting, perhaps shocking meeting. First of all, the timeline for beginning and executing the plan that has been designed is much shorter than we thought. Construction diagrams are going to be available and submitted to the city within probably by December 9th. That's going to go to the city. Permitting, they estimated, the architect and the builder estimated permitting by the city could take 1 to 2 months, but certainly by the middle of January, it's expected that we will actually have permits to proceed. Well, one of our questions was, well, if we actually have permission and plans, how quickly can the builder tell us that he could get started? He said, well, if the city gave us permission by the 15th of January and we agreed to go ahead, he could start by February 1st. And he said, well, how long would this project likely take? All of us have thought, well, 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year or whatever. What are we going to do in the meantime? He said, realistically, I think we can probably finish in 4 months. So our timeline is upon us. Our timeline is upon us. And of course, Norma Meyer and Russ Erickson have been frantically planning and putting together plans for a capital campaign, which I must point out is separate from the regular fundraising campaign that is done every year to support the continuing activities. But so the capital campaign will be in full swing. I think we will have a community meeting in December, either next week or possibly after the service in 2 weeks, to really present and discuss the project and get and bring everybody up to date as much as we can about what the plan actually is. And then in early January, probably somewhere around the 15th, once we have a specific figure that that the builder says is quite a relatively secure figure, plus or minus 10% or so. So in mid-January, we'd have a meeting of all people who want to come and hear and basically volunteer. What are they willing to contribute to the project? A small number of people have already spoken with Russ and Norma, indicating, in fact, some very generous support, but clearly we need the whole support of as many people as possible. So that's where we stand. It is very possible that by this summer, we will be in a facility with a vaulted roof. There will probably be stained decorative windows in the front. There will be screens on each side. And we will basically, other than that, have a blank slate to consider how we want to decorate the inside. So this contract is the structure, and then we will have essentially a whiteboard to do what we want in terms of decorating within that. So we felt it was very important to bring people up to date, to point out that it really is going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. So thank you very much.
Hope and thankfulness. Enjoy the exit music played by Karen, and let's see you at coffee.